But to be manipulated and to be scammed is the opposite of what's going to help you in wealth-wise. To be manipulated is the opposite of masculinity. So it's not the thing, it's not growing your finances or being masculine that it's the problem. It's that what's being presented and displayed is actually taking you away from what they're claiming they're bringing you closer to. Ooh, my legs.
Do you believe that men today are falling behind, or do you believe that men are being deliberately held back?
I think we're being deliberately held back, which in sense looks like we're falling behind, but deliberately held back for sure.
We're not being raised correctly like we were back in the old days. Men are being feminized, in my opinion.
Aren't women being artificially boosted ahead?
Yes, with feminism being pushed as much as it is, I think the narrative can be twisted wrong that it's pushing men out of the picture, whether fighting for equality.
What if men are just opting out?
A lot of them are due to the uphill battle that we're facing when going against, but we're being a man these days. But yeah, a lot of them are. I can see that.
I honestly don't disagree with that. I just think that comes down to weak men.
If men and boys are falling behind, why are we still talking about the wage gap?
I do not know, because I think it's pretty clear cut that I believe that there are certain jobs that just are meant for us to do, and certain jobs women are meant to do. I don't know what the wage gap is for. Equal pay is cool in certain situations, but nah.
If it's a man's world and men built the system
Get the
to
fuck
benefit
out of the
men,
frame, bitch
why
ass
is everything
nigga.
so heavily stacked against men?
Well, they did kind of create that system for themselves in a way.
It was created by a group of men, not all men.
Feminism. I just got one word for that one. Feminism. I think the feminism era has changed the way everything and the dynamic is viewed in the world today.
I think it comes down to the...
But you know, also, if I'm being completely honest, bro, I think that if men was doing what they were supposed to be doing, I don't even think feminism to the extent that it's at would be like where it is. Like any woman who has, like, I'm not saying she can't have a bad experience with men, but all the problems, not all, but most of the problems come back to fathers not being in daughters' lives. That's really where it comes down to, bro. All this dating shit, a lot of the money shit, a lot of the broken homes and, you know what I mean, gangs. It's just like if the father was in the home, most of this shit wouldn't even be happening. Being for real, bro. That's really all it really is. Like, if the father was in the home, nah, there are some fathers who you better off them not being in the home. Let me preface it with that. But for the fathers who are reasonably decent human beings who have a heart, most of the problem is because the father's not in the home for real. Like, if these women had, like, good experiences with men and their fathers, they wouldn't feel the ways that they feel about being against men, bro. The passion that they have about being against men, it wouldn't exist especially not to the extent that it does if they have good relationships with the men in their life, their fathers, their uncles, just the men in their life. They wouldn't be moving like this, bro. Because you can tell when a woman is really loved and nurtured by a man, like, she's not gonna be moving that way. So I feel like the only way a woman could really be moving that way is if, the guy that she was supposed to have a good relationship with, which is her father, she didn't have that with. So
pressure that men are under to perform, the constant battle, the constant competition. I think they build it, they stack it for themselves, but they're also stacking it against each other at the same time.
Why do men want to continue being leaders and providers when they're more likely to be blamed and punished for it?
I think it just comes down to natural instinct. We thrive on being providers. We thrive on being leaders.
Elaborate, B-Lou.
It's just something in our DNA. We're just not.
That's what I want to get that on I want to get that on one of my buttons I press. Elaborate, B-Lou. Bro, that shit be frying me, bro. That shit is too funny.
We can be able to get away from that.
Why are there all these influencers online talking about an attack on masculinity as opposed to an attack on men's rights? Don't men need their rights whether they're masculine or not?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, it does.
Let me hear that question one more. Elaborate, B-Lou.
To get away from that.
Hear that one more time.
Why are there all these influencers online talking about an attack on masculinity as opposed to an attack on men's rights? Don't men need their rights whether they're masculine or not?
Of course. Yeah, I mean,
What rights of men are being taken away? Just I'm ignorant to that, so somebody let me know. But I mean, I guess, is it more? I don't even know what men, what rights of men are being taken away. But is it more important to talk about the rights of men that are being taken away, depending on what they are, or is it more important to talk about demonizing and minimizing the role that masculine or masculinity or men traditionally play in a household, which is extremely necessary? You know what I mean? So,
I mean, it does. That's one of those things where there's double standards, right? A woman gets her rights no matter what her choices are, and if you try to downplay that or minimize that, you're seen as anti-feminism, right? But for men, you got to pick and choose which time you get rights and which ones you don't. You got to abide by the rules, stay inside the lines, and get those rights.
Why is it when we talk about women's issues, it's about women's rights, but when it's men's issues, it's about mental health?
Simply the way that I'm going to say the media is structuring it.
Because men all have all the rights they need, the social rights and the legal rights.
Many sources are supporting women's mental health because taking away their rights affects their mental health. That's objectifiably true.
Are men smart enough to realize
That nigga
that
tall as
masculinity is the first thing anyone will attack when they want to control men?
Most men aren't because they think it's a duty.
Yes, a real man does. You understand? They try to hit you where it hurts. Yes, for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing they go after. Anytime a woman is trying to control a man, they're going to attack their masculinity right off the bat because in all honesty, it's a weak spot for men. We do not like our masculinity being attacked. I can tell you that.
I mean, what does that mean, masculinity being attacked? Like, when you say, oh, she's attacking my masculinity, like, oh, like if a woman's like, oh, like you being a bitch ass nigga, you acting like a female, is giving DL, like, I feel like real masculinity, in my opinion, is like, it's not outsourced. It's not relevant or rooted in like what people think about you. If somebody, if 10 people come up to me like, oh nah, you mad feminine, like, I mean, I'm sure I'm not 100% masculine. Everybody is masculine and feminine. You know, it just depends on to what percentage. But, I mean, what you think don't really mean shit. Like, if 10 people come up to me like, oh, nah, you chopped. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck. To you, I might be chopped. That's cool. I'm not chopped to myself. So, I mean, what are we really talking about here? So,
From experience.
Conversely, why is masculinity the first thing promoted when they want to control men?
Because masculinity is a socialist construct, and the idea of masculinity is that men need to lead.
Oh, because that's the way they get you to, that's the way they manipulate you emotionally in order for you to do a duty or something for them.
It's a double-edged sword. When someone's trying to control a man, they're going to say, oh, they're not man enough, or they're, or...
It's so interesting how backwards that is, because you're using the idea of me being masculine to manipulate me, but the more easily you can be manipulated, the less masculine you are. Ain't that crazy? Like, yeah, if you don't do this, you're not a man. All right, let me do that. By you doing that, you are actually like becoming less masculine. Not less of a man. You're a man, whatever, but you're becoming less masculine in the characteristics and terms and adjectives that correlate to masculinity. Is so crazy. A man that is just firm, that is anchored, that is not gonna be moved by bitches saying, "Oh, you a bitch ass nigga, your mother." That's femininity. That femininity is not necessarily bad, but just like emotional, sporadic. All over the place, up and down, left and right. Masculinity is solid, stable, still, firm. You know what I'm saying? So one minute she, you bitch ass nigga. You next minute, oh, I love you so much. That's femininity. It's up and down. It's left and right. It's all over. It's femininity. Masculinity is firm. All right. You a bitch ass nigga. If you don't do this, you not a man. All right, whatever. That's cool. Just keep your hands off me. That's all I ask you. Keep your hands off me. Don't touch me. You can say whatever you want. Yeah, you a bitch ass nigga. You got a little dick, and that's why. That's cool. Let me know when you done. I'm about to go to the gym. I'll be back later. I mean, I'm about to make some food or whatever. I leave the rest for you on the stove and shit like that. Just not really moved. Like, not saying that you can't have emotions, but being emotional and being very emotionally reactive and being very fluid, or maybe not fluid, but just like very sporadic and quickly, emotional is a feminine thing. So if you can be moved quick and you're not anchored, you're not firm, and somebody could say something to make you feel all this ways and shit like that, it's so quickly and easily, the less masculine you are.
Or being too much of a man, or whatever you're going to do, whatever they're going to say. But when they're trying to promote masculinity, they're trying to say you need to be better than a man, you need to be better than this person, better than that person. So I just feel like, depending on the situation, masculinity can be wielded both directions.
Because it's all that we know, and it's the way that men are being controlled with the notions of what masculinity should be.
So is masculinity the solution, or is masculinity the problem?
I very much think that it's a solution, as a solution for sure.
Well, if masculinity is used as a way to control men, how is it not the problem?
Because that's not real masculinity. That's like saying, masculinity is not manipulated. Like, if one of the two is going to be manipulated, it's going to be femininity. That's more likely to be manipulated. Like, when you see a woman, like, manipulating a nigga, like, in a real, like, I don't know. That's like saying, these people that be scamming niggas with money and shit like that, or like putting out courses that's not really real and lying about their lifestyles to sell books and stuff like that. Let's just say that masculinity is growing your wealth, right? And they use growing your wealth, or they use masculinity to control you and to make you do things that you otherwise wouldn't have done, or make you do things that you don't even know that you're doing. You don't even know you're being scammed. You don't even know you're being manipulated. And then saying, oh, well, growing in terms of your wealth is the problem. No, it's not that growing or masculinity is the problem. It's that it's being used in a way that's not really what it is. Like, if you were actually getting, what you were paying for, or if you were actually, if what they were saying is actually true about, oh, if you don't do this and you don't do this, then you're not masculine. If that was actually true, then that's a different conversation. But to be manipulated and to be scammed is the opposite of what's going to help you in wealth-wise. To be manipulated is the opposite of masculinity. So it's not the thing, it's not growing your finances or being masculine, it's the problem. It's that what's being presented and displayed is actually taking you away from what they're claiming they're bringing you closer to.
That's a beautiful, beautiful question. At this point, I take that one as rhetorical. Don't know how to answer. I love that question.
Why is masculinity more attached to a man's ego than femininity is attached to a woman's ego?
Because it's what, again, I think to your questions, it's the system used to control men. So it's heavily scrutinized.
That's just something I personally believe is embedded in our DNA. When a man is attacked, it really hits at the core of who we are. Women just have the ability to sort of shut that down. They don't really get too involved in that. They don't really care so much.
What the fuck?
When that's just something I personally believe is embedded in our DNA.
Your questions, it's the
To a woman's ego. Why is masculinity more attached to a man's ego than femininity is attached to a woman's ego?
Because it's what, again, I think to your questions, it's the system used to control men. So it's heavily scrutinized.
That's just something I personally believe is embedded in our DNA. When a man is attacked, it really hits at the core of who we are. Women just have the ability to sort of shut that down. They don't really get too involved in that. They don't really care so much.
It's ego. We all got our own egos, bro. So a man, I guess stereotypically, would be more attached to his masculinity and, you know, whether or not I don't know, but a woman, I guess it's also based on societal, like, you know, things. Like a woman cares a lot more about being physically attractive than a man does. I guess for societal reasons. I don't really know why, but it's not that women don't care. It's just that's not what's emphasized. Women don't care as much about making money. A woman could be broke. Nobody really gonna give a fuck. A nigga is broke. Niggas is on that ass. Niggas is, oh, you broke ass. Nobody's saying you broke, bitch. Nobody's just calling these women broke out here. You know what I'm saying? In the same way that you can call a man ugly, but like you calling a woman ugly, that's way different. So we all got shit that affects us differently for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, bro. Maybe it's like the way you get treated based on certain things, like how a woman gets treated if she's ugly or a whore. I mean, a whore. Like, remember, women used to be getting called like hoe or you a hoe. I don't even think bitches call bitches hoes no more. Like, that's how you know this shit's out of, like, there's no shame in that no more. Like, bitches getting a bag off that. You know what I'm saying? There's no shame in being a hoe no more. Or you a homewrecker. That used to hurt bitches. So it's not no DNA. It's just based off the societal norm. You call somebody a hoe now, man, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or what's something that you, is there anything like that for men that you used to call niggas? Or, you know, like what you say to men, like, oh yeah, you don't get no bitches. That might hurt a nigga. You tell that to a woman, like, oh, you don't get no niggas. I don't think that's gonna hurt like that. Like, I don't think bitches gonna care. So it's not DNA. It's just like the way society views shit, and I guess how we care about being perceived. That's what I'm saying. Like, masculinity, I don't think cares about being perceived. It doesn't really care about it really doesn't care about being, it doesn't really care for other people's approval like that. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you don't really care about being masculine, because if you actually cared about being masculine, you wouldn't be manipulated. You wouldn't, oh well, she thinks this is not masculine, okay, let me not do that. You know, or let me cave into what she wants so she think that's not masculinity. So if you actually cared about true masculinity, you just care about being perceived masculine. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people on Instagram, they flaunt money and shit like that. That's cool, whatever. But it's like a lot of people don't really care about, you know, having money or, you know, success or whatever. They just care about being perceived that way. And so to be perceived as something and to actually have it, a lot of times it's like the opposite. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be perceived as rich, you wear jewelry and buy all the shit that you can't afford. That's actually taking you away from being rich. If you actually look poor and make yourself look, you know, like you're the opposite of rich, you actually got a better chance of getting rich. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be perceived as masculine, because let's be real, like a lot of these girls don't really know what masculinity is or what it looks like. They think masculinity is niggas paying for bills and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, you care about being perceived as masculine, and so you're going to prioritize being perceived as masculine, and that's literally going to take you away from being masculine. But nobody gives a fuck really about being masculine. They care about being perceived, respect. Like, bro, come on, bro.
At least the way we do. When we're attacked on our masculinity, it's almost as if you're attacking our character, who we are, and the way we're built.
Double standards, man. It's all the same. I think as a man, you should have an ego. You have to have pride. You got to stand for something. And it's only used against you when it doesn't do what they want you to do.
Why is our society quicker to accept gay men than it will accept straight men who don't meet masculinity standards?
Feminism, man. The LGBTQ.
Man, what a question.
Why is our society quicker to accept gay men than it will accept straight men who don't meet masculinity standards?
Is that even true? Is that even true? I mean, let's assume that that's true, which I don't think it is, because, like, Gay niggas been catching heat for a long time. Gay niggas is just now, bro. If you gay within like the last 5, maybe 10 years, you just starting to turn the corner. You know what I'm saying? You just starting to turn the corner for real in terms of just like the way people perceive you and shit like that. So, I can't really say that that's true. But secondly, I guess like if you're a gay man, it doesn't really matter if you possess masculine qualities because you're gonna be with another man, right? But if you're a man and you don't possess all the masculine qualities, it's a problem because the expectation is that your masculine qualities are supposed to go with a feminine quality. That's the same way if a woman's masculine, niggas is gonna be on her ass for that because if you're a straight woman, you're supposed to be in alignment with masculinity. So that's why these gay girls or studs, dykes, whatever, no TOS. Shout out to niggas so Illuminati, bro. That nigga be saying no TOS. He be saying the most TOS shit and then say no TOS after and think that's a fucking reverse Uno card. Anyway, nobody really tripping on a dyke having masculine qualities, but if a straight woman has masculine qualities, you're like, yo, if you want to be with a masculine, you can't be masculine. In the same way that, a gay man is going to be with a man, so it don't matter. But a straight man is like, you can't have these feminine qualities or be feminine in this way if you want to be with the feminine.
Feminism, man. The LGBTQ plus community. It's a propaganda thing right now, man. But I think it's all still falls under feminism.
I feel like gay men are allowed to express their emotions if they're feminine appearing because that's considered a feminine attribute. But gay men who are more on the masculine side or what appears passing for straight or whatever they call it, I feel like they would be more prone to push down their emotions because that's just a societal expectation for masculinity.
Wouldn't that mean that gay men are more free to be themselves than straight men?
I believe that. I truly believe that. They have more rights. They have more openness and everything. They're more supported by the world than we are. I believe that.
So why do we view gay men as more oppressed than straight men?
I don't. The man.
More prone to.
My fault. Let me actually watch, bro. My fault. I'm getting distracted.
For masculinity.
Wouldn't that mean that gay men are more free to be themselves than straight men?
I believe that. I truly believe that. They have more rights. They have.
Gay men are more free to be themselves than straight men. Okay, let's assume that that's true. For the same reason that you could say that, you could say gay women are more free to be themselves than straight women. Like the beauty standards on a straight woman is definitely different than beauty standards on a gay woman. A gay woman, there's damn near no beauty standards. There really is none. On a straight woman though, like there's definitely beauty standards. So, and it's women on both sides. Typically, like it's the straight women, like imposing their standards on other straight women, and then it's straight women imposing their standards on other straight men. So I would argue that, but I don't know that that's true. Cause I ain't gonna lie, like you see two gay niggas kissing in the street, bruh. They're just not like, it's not the same. Like, yeah, their community is more tight knit and shit like that. But like, the best you'll get out of a lot of motherfuckers is like, nah, I ain't gonna lie, I don't got no problem with gay people. Just keep that away from me. Whereas like, nah, I ain't gonna lie, I was fucking this bitch the other day. Nigga like, like, you know what I'm saying? Where if a gay nigga walk into a room and is like, I ain't gonna lie, I was fucking this nigga the other day. Nigga like, whoa. Nah, I don't got no problem with gay people, but chill. Like, you feel me? You can't just be randomly like, it's just not the same. I don't know. That's debatable, bruh. That's debatable.
Have more openness and everything. They're more supported by the world than we are. I believe that.
So why do we view gay men as more oppressed than straight men?
I don't. The masses do. But I don't view it that way. I can tell you that.
So is masculinity the solution or is masculinity the problem?
I think masculinity is the solution. I mean, what they complain about, they oppress, they kind of make you look like a fool if you are masculine. So I think masculinity is the solution. We get more masculine men in the world, things get back in order.
Masculinity is important in strength and loyalty and courage. I believe those are all masculine attributes. So I think it can both help, but if it's used in the wrong way, it can be very destructive.
What's the difference between toxic masculinity versus healthy masculinity?
It can't. That's a tricky one because I kind of teeter the line. I don't think there's a such thing as toxic masculinity unless you're abusing it for the wrong reasons. But as a man, you should want to be masculine at all times.
There is such a thing as
toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is really just feminine, in my opinion, bro. If you that's a take for another day, though.
Toxic masculinity. I think when it gets taken too far, it gets taken out of context is what a man should be. It gets disrespectful in many ways. A healthy masculinity is just being confident in who you are, understanding what you're capable of, but not going around trying to pound your chest like you're King Kong. You just want to be a man, but you also want to be gentle at the same time.
Toxic masculinity is the idea that if you are not oppressive, then you are not a man. You can't cry, you can't paint your nails, you can't live your life. It's the conservative idea of what a man should be, compared to masculinity, where you can be sure of the fact that you are a man and still express yourself the way you want.
How is the idea that all men are expected to conform to a masculine standard not toxic in and of itself?
Oh, it is toxic in and of itself. Thank you for bringing that up.
It is toxic. They shouldn't all have to conform to the same thing, because girls don't all have to conform to the same thing. We can all be different and nobody cares. But if guys aren't fitting like this kind of same masculine standard, then they're shamed in a way.
Are men shamed more for being...
I think that's the very nature of masculine and feminine, right? Masculine is anchored. It's like solid. Femininity is fluid. So you being all over the place and being different, and that's innately feminine. Where you doing that as a man, that's not masculine, which is okay. But that's not, and again, like I've said, I'm not 100% masculine. Nobody should be 100% masculine. Nobody should be 100% feminine, but you should be, like the yin and yang. Like, it's not a full black side and a full white. It's like white and then a little black and then black and a little white. And so you should have, as a human, you should have some feminine to you, man or woman. You should have some feminine to you. So I think that's the reason, though. You can't. It's just not the same. It's just two different things.
Strong and masculine, or they shame more for not being masculine enough?
Depends on who you're talking to and what day, who you make you feel good. One day you'll get shamed for being masculine, next day you're not masculine enough. It all depends on the day and what they want to push.
If men have to conform to a pre-scripted masculine identity in order to qualify as a real man, why aren't alpha males seen as the biggest NPCs?
You know what? And people that understand the world do see that. It's just like I said, when they need you to be that man, they'll accept it. When not, you won't be seen as that.
I think men are going based off of a script that has always been, and they're staying traditional. But women, however, they're going off of a new script they're trying to create and seeing what works. Right now, it's not working, and I don't think it will ever work. As long as the society and the culture is the way it is, there can be a greater social or a better social change, but it's not. This right here is not really the answer that what they're doing right now. It's creating single families, it's creating messed up childhoods, it's creating trauma and everything, and also the men too. So just be careful about where you plant your seed.
Are women only oppressed by men, or are they also oppressed by other women?
Other women the most. They the ones
the most
down each other the most and set the standard.
The most.
I mean, we're pretty black.
I ain't never heard a nigga say nothing about a woman having her nails done, a full face of makeup. I don't even, bruh. You ever watch Baddies, bruh? It's not niggas watching Baddies. There's other women watching. It's Baddies on Baddies. There's no male equivalent of Baddies. There's no male equivalent of Baddies. I'm just letting you know this right now. There's no show where niggas is, supposed to be in his house and, whatever. Like, you may have The Bachelor, but that's not Baddies, though. I mean, you have The Bachelorette and you have Bachelor, so that's like, there's no baddies for niggas, bro. Maybe that, you think that would make money? Who was watching that? Bitches is watching that for sure. Is niggas watching that? I don't know. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Women hitting other women, like, it's not gonna get as dangerous, but niggas bare knuckling other niggas, that regularly, that could be dangerous. I ain't gonna hold you. But I don't know. There might be a market out there for that, bruh. Just to see, like, a good season 1. You know what I'm saying? Some niggas who got nothing to lose. Anyway. But yeah, it's definitely women doing it most of the time.
White, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's more other women.
So they have a lot of pressure to be pretty, to be a certain way, depending on the way society is, whether it's being a homemaker, if a woman chooses to be traditional, or depending on a man. Right now in this culture, they get, scrutinized for it, but they get a lot of scrutiny from both sides. But definitely nowadays, it's a heavy attack on the traditional woman, which it shouldn't be.
Should society ignore when women oppress other women?
No, 100% not. It doesn't matter where the suppression or the oppression is coming from. It should never ever be ignored.
So then why do women ignore men's oppression when it comes from other men?
That's actually an excellent question. I have seen that in society. I do agree with you with that.
I don't think it should ever be ignored, but they ignore it when they oppress men, so why not?
So then why do women ignore men's oppression when it comes from other men?
Because honestly, I think it goes for relatability.
Why do women ignore men's oppression? That's not their business, bro. What the fuck? That's not right, though. Nah, that's not right for me to say. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I do... Nah, that's not right. I take that back. They shouldn't, but there's no but. They shouldn't. But some things you just gotta let men hash out, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But I don't know. That's tricky.
Their feelings. If they can't relate to it, they don't understand how it feels. It doesn't affect them. They go off what they feel.
That is an excellent question. I think it's more of men have made themselves seem so much like they have this pride about them where they can handle it all on their own. And so we kind of stay out of it because if we get in the way, we're afraid that it'll backfire on us.
How are we living in a patriarchy if men have oppressed men more than they've ever oppressed women?
Is that true?
That's an interesting one. Man, you caught me with that one. I don't know. I gotta look into that. That's a did that.
See,
men have oppressed men more than they have oppressed women. I don't know if I can agree with that. I don't know if I can agree with that. I don't know if I can agree with that.
I personally don't think we live in a patriarchy. If you look around the world, there's a lot of women in power. There's a lot of women in high-profile positions. Again, coming from the political world myself, I've seen women in positions of authority, so I just don't really view that as a patriarchy. I think it's just all about media spin when it comes to that to get votes.
Men have always oppressed other men. I feel like that's the entire point of war. Men oppressing women was just a sport play for them, taking away voting rights, taking away abortion rights. It's just extra control or power for them in a sense.
If men fought to liberate women, why aren't women fighting to liberate men?
Because it doesn't affect them. They only care about what they feel. Relatability is the key. They only go off what they feel.
I don't know if that's fair.
Some women, not all, but some women don't see.
You want motherfuckers to have... Let's say if men are oppressing women and men are oppressing men, how the fuck is a woman going to fight for men oppressing men when men are already oppressing women? That's like saying, black people gotta fight for white people to not oppress other white people. It's like, nigga, what the fuck is, what?
Our pain, or they
like,
don't
if your premise is true that men oppress women, right? That's the premise that we're operating under. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the premise that was agreed upon. So if that's true, how are you going to expect the oppressed to fight against the oppressor to help another less oppressed oppressor or a less oppressed group of people?
Our pain and suffering.
Women don't want to fight to liberate men because they don't care.
So then why should men care about women's liberation or women's freedom or women's rights?
Because we have the power of force, so we have to care about others in order for social change and cultural
How
change
would
to
men
happen.
have the power to enforce women's rights if they don't even have the power to enforce their own rights?
They do. So I go to Harvard Law School, not trying to throw it in anybody's face or anything like that.
Nah, I mean that dude. Got to come up in conversation though. You went to Harvard Law School, but yeah. Anyway, so when I was in Connecticut, what you doing it over there? Oh, nah, I would go to Harvard Law School. You didn't? I go to Harvard. I go to Harvard Law School. What you said? You said you didn't hear me? I said I go to Harvard Law School. Type shit. Anyway.
But it has to change through precedents, which is basically prior court rulings, and they have to go off of that. So in order for social justice to change like lawyers can do, you have to create that.
Why was there a men's liberation movement during the 1970s? What do you think men needed to be liberated from?
This push that we're fighting with right now, the feminism push, the first wave of that somehow got fought off, that we need to figure out how to fight it now.
Why do men complain about the way men are treated and have harder lives? At the same time, men want to keep themselves in roles that oppress them.
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of dudes just don't like change. So they will stick with whatever the status quo is until there is change.
No.
They'll just stick with it and just
stick to the
disguise
status
it as
quo.
Because it's our nature, it's human nature. I think
that's my favorite song out of all 3 High School Music. We listened to all 3. I think we listened to 2 High School Musicals on stream. Follow my Twitch. You know what I'm saying? We listened to all 2 High School Musicals, and we listened to Let It Shine. We listened to what's that? Lemonade Mouth. Stick to the Status Quo is my favorite High School Musical song, nigga. Favorite song. That shit is so fire.
Yeah, our genetic makeup is designed for us to be in a certain role, and no matter what happens, most men and real men want to stay in that position.
Why do people think that men wanting to be liberated from their oppression means that men want to become women?
Well, I think that's something that emotionally manipulative women do in order to shame men to not have them fight for their rights. It's an emotional tactic, but I think men should fight for their rights the same way women fight for their rights. That's the only way things are going to change.
Why is it that men will reluctantly accept their fate anytime an injustice is pointed out? It is what it is, or that's just part of being a man?
That's how we're conditioned. That's something I'm actually working through in therapy. It is what it is, or just accepting circumstances. It's part of what we sign up for as men, and we're accountable. We're way more accountable than women. Don't kill me, y'all, but that's what I feel.
Men are often shamed for having a victim or defeatist mindset. How is saying it is what it is not just having a defeatist mindset?
Say that one more time.
Kill me, y'all, but that's part of what we sign up for as men, and we're accountable. We're way more accountable than women. Don't kill me, y'all, but that's what I feel.
Men are often shamed for having a victim or defeatist mindset. How is saying it is what it is not just having a defeatist mindset?
It's accepting of it. It is that, actually, but it's the way society is.
It literally is what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying?
As conditioned us to be. So I think that it kind of goes both ways. It's teetering the fine line.
Is saying it is what it is a defeatist or a victim mindset? Not when I use it. When I'm saying it is what it is, like I'm saying, all right, we gotta move on, bro. Cause what it is, it literally is that. So like we gotta, whatever that is, we have to acknowledge what it is. It is what it is. So acknowledge what it is, understand it, process it, and then let's fucking move on and figure out how we can, whatever we gotta do to move on and shit like that. Saying so, if my girl cheat on me, damn, I ain't gonna lie, that shit hurt. It is what it is, though. Like, it is what it is really means, like, we not about to change what just happened. Like, yeah, like, we could, cry and whatever, and that's good. Crying is excellent. I'm not gonna lie. Crying, when used properly, God gave us the ability to cry for a reason. There's a time to mourn, you know what I'm saying? There's a time to be born and all of that, yes. So there's a time to cry. Crying is a useful thing to have. So yes, cry. But at the end of the day, after all the crying, she still fucked that nigga. She literally, there's nothing you can do to change that. So it is what it is. We not about to change what it is. So we gotta just figure shit out.
Why are women praised for going their own way as an independent woman, while men are shamed for going their own way as a MGTOW?
Because it's scary for women to go their independent way. Men are often always known to be independent, as that is the masculine, like the idea of masculinity. But women have never been away, and they are constantly shamed for being independent. So it's prideful to be able to go away.
Men historically have always been able to go their own way. Women are just now being able to go their own way, and I think that there is a slight change in society right now where women are starting to realize that going their own way really isn't the best, because we're made for each other and we're made to build together. But as long as you try, it takes two people to lift the couch. But if you think you're going to do it on your own, go right ahead. But we'll see how far that gets you in later in life.
Why is women's empowerment all about liberation and choice, while men's empowerment is all about masculinity, duty, and sacrifice, which is actually the opposite of liberation and choice?
Because men, we have a role and a position to fulfill. Women want to do to men things until it doesn't benefit them anymore. A lot of those women that feel that way. So they're fighting for something, but they don't know what they're fighting for.
How can what empowers one gender be the opposite of what empowers the other?
That's how it's supposed to be. There are gender roles in society, no matter what you believe in. I solely believe that that is how it's supposed to be. Some things are for women and some things are for men.
Why do
I think there's masculinity roles and there's feminine roles. I would abide more by that personally. I mean, our anatomy, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how feminine a man is, you can't have no baby. So, no matter how, masculine a woman is, you can't produce no sperm. But other than that,
men have obligations while women have choice?
That might be only in America, so because I have learned that traveling the world, that's just a systemic thing that's been put in place.
Talk to that nigga, you heard?
We're obligated to do certain things.
Get your ass out the country. Get out the country, big dog.
I think it's because we put the obligations on ourselves. For example, my girlfriend, I give her options. For me, it's never an option. What I provide for her, what I do for her is my duty, the way I look at it. For her, it's, hey, you've got the option to go to work today. You've got the option to go shopping today. I think it's just creating a simpler lifestyle for them while we bear the burden of that lifestyle.
So then why do men want to complain about them having harder lives or the way they're treated? At the same time, we want to keep accepting all these burdens.
Yeah, that comes down to a masculinity issue. I think men who were brought up in an environment that's not. I'm trying to think of a good way to put this that's camera friendly. Yeah, it's your environment. Like, I grew up in the South. I'm from Texas, and so men down there, it's different. We bear that burden. Yeah, we got something to say about it at times, but we shoulder that. I think men on the West Coast, it's a different environment. They love to complain. They love to try to put the blame on somebody else or divert that responsibility. That to me all centers back to where you're from, your upbringing, and how you were raised.
I'm not really sure what you're trying to say.
How do we have a true patriarchy when men are mere figureheads bound to serve women?
We don't. We used to have a patriarchy. On the grand scheme of things, you would just think we do. But if you ever delve into it, I don't think it's necessarily that anymore.
We are bound to serve women because it's our duty, but we are also letting a lot of women, not good women, because there are some good women out there, but we allow the emotionally manipulative women to use our duty and our in this culture to also manipulate us and to serve them.
I don't think we're living in a patriarchy. I think we're living in a matriarchy. I think women run this like it's nobody's business. I mean, it's the power of the poom poom, baby. Like, where's the patriarchy? Where is it?
Where's the patriarchy?
I can't find it.
I can't find it. She seemed mad feminine.
I mean, it's the power of the poom poom, baby. Like,
baby,
where's the patriarchy? Where is it?
Where's the patriarchy?
I can't find it.
That's funny.